I poisoned my mother's coffee that morning. Not with arsenic or anything dramatic like that, just a slow drip betrayal she'd been serving me for decades. Finally turned back on her. It wasn't about killing her, hell. I wished she'd live long enough to choke on the truth. Grandpa's will had arrived like a ghost in the mail 2 days prior. Its yellowed pages unraveling the empire my parents had built on his stolen bones. And I knew right then that mercy was for suckers who'd never had their childhood auctioned off for a down payment on a McMansion. By the time she slumped over her mug in the kitchen of that godforsaken house in Shaker Heights, Ohio, our family home for 60 years, the one Grandma refused to leave, I was already packing her bags. Metaphorically speaking, because the real eviction notice was etched in Grandpa's final, furious scrawl. My name's Riley Harper. And if you think this sounds like the plot of some Lifetime movie where the plucky granddaughter saves the day with a sassy one-liner, you're dead wrong. This is Cleveland in 2025, where the Rust Belt scars run deeper than Lake Erie's winter freeze. And family isn't blood, it's a ledger of debts and double crosses. I was 28, scraping by as a barista at a hipster spot in Ohio City, slinging oat milk lattes to tech bros who thought they invented coffee, when the lawyer's envelope hit my mailbox. Grandma Eleanor, but to me, always just Gram, had called me over the night before, her voice a rasp over the line like sandpaper on regret. Riley, honey, they're comin' for the house. Your folks say it's time I move to that fancy assisted living in Akron. Like I'm some potted plant they can repot when the view gets old. I'd driven straight for my shift, the lake effect snow whipping my beat-up Civic like it had a personal grudge. Graham's place was a relic, Victorian gingerbread trim peeling like old skin, wraparound porch sagging under the weight of 60 winters. It was the house Grandpa built with his own calloused hands after Korea, back when Shaker Heights was the promised land for blue-collar dreamers like him, Irish stock, steelworker strong, with a laugh that could thaw a blizzard. Mom and Dad, Linda and Greg Harper, had grown up there, but somewhere along the line, they'd traded the soul of the place for strip malls and status. Dad climbed the corporate ladder at KeyBank. Mom flipped houses like they were poker chips. And by the time I came along, the house was less home and more collateral. Gram met me at the door, her silver hair pinned in that eternal bun, eyes like chipped turquoise behind bifocals. She hugged me fierce, smelling of Bengay and the faint vanilla of her famous snickerdoodles, then shoved a mug of tea into my hands.
Seat, girl.
We got reckonin' to do. The living room was a time capsule, doilies on the arms of the floral sofa. Grandpa's Union jacket hung by the mantel like a sentinel. Photos of us all faded to sepia ghosts. There was me at 5, gap-toothed and grinning on Grandpa's shoulders, Mom at 16, all Farrah Fawcett feathered hair and attitude, Dad in his Army ROTC days, stiff as a board. And tucked in the corner, that oil portrait of Grandpa Frank Harper, eyes sharp as a switchblade, staring down like he knew the wolves at the door. She didn't beat around the bush. Your parents want me out. Say the property values are tankin' with the neighborhood goin' diverse, and they need to sell to fund their retirement. Retirement, at 65, with a beach house in Florida already half paid. But this ain't just about money, Riley. It's about what they buried. Her voice cracked, and she pulled a shoebox from under the coffee table. Dust bunnies dancing in the lamplight like accusations. Inside, letters. Yellowed bank statements. A deed folded crisp as a threat. And at the bottom, the will Grandpa's. Dated 1998. The year before he dropped dead from a heart attack they all swore was natural causes. I scanned it, heart kicking like a mule. Grandpa hadn't left the house to Mom and Dad, like everyone assumed.
No.
He deeded it to Graham in a trust. Irrevocable. With a codicil that burned hotter than a blast furnace. If the family ever tried to force her out, the property reverted to me, his little firecracker, the only one he'd trusted with the truth. But the truth? That was the hook in my gut. Grandpa wrote that Mom and Dad had forged a signature on a second mortgage back in '85, siphoning $200,000 to bankroll Dad's business venture, a chain of car washes that tanked, leaving Grandpa to cover the loans with his pension. Worse, the accident that killed my Uncle Tommy, Dad's brother. In '92, a drunk driving crash they pinned on Tommy to collect the insurance, when really, it was Dad behind the wheel, swerving home from a strip club bender. You mean? They let Uncle Tommy take the fall. My voice was a whisper, the tea turning bitter in my mouth. Graham nodded, tears carving tracks down her cheeks. Frank found out.
Confronted em.
They gaslit him, said he was senile. But he knew. That's why the will. He wanted you to have it. Riley clean. No strings. Said you were the only one with his spine. I sat there, the box spilling secrets like Pandora's regret, and felt the first twist of the knife. I'd grown up idolizing my parents, the golden couple who sacrificed for me, private school, summer camps, the whole American dream package. But Graham's stories painted them as vultures, picking Grandpa clean while he withered in the mill, lungs black from slag. And me? I'd been their shield. At 16, when Dad's gambling debts hit the fan, they borrowed my college fund $15,000 I'd scraped from babysitting and scholarships, promising to pay it back. They didn't. I dropped out of Kent State, worked doubles at diners, while they jetted to Vegas for networking. Betrayal? It was a family heirloom, passed down like Mom's pearl necklace.
By dawn,
I was seething. Graham asleep upstairs. I paced the porch, the snow muting the world to a hush. My phone buzzed, Mom. Texting, meeting at the house 10 a.m. Bring your checkbook if you care about Graham's future. Checkbook? I had $847 in savings and a maxed visa. But Grandpa's will? That was dynamite. I texted back, see you there.
Then,
on impulse, I drove to the cemetery Lakeview, where Grandpa's stone read Frank Harper, built with honor, broke no promises. I knelt in the slush, whispering, "You old bastard. Why me?" His answer was the wind, cold and certain, because someone had to pay.
10 o'clock sharp.
They pulled up in Dad's Escalade, all chrome and entitlement. Mom stepping out in Lululemon yoga pants that screamed, "I brunch with influencers."
Dad,
Paunch, straining his polo, carried a folder like a guillotine. Graham and I waited on the porch, her hand trembling in mine. "Linda." "Gregory," she said, voice steel despite the quiver.
Sit.
"We talk first." Mom's Botox smile faltered. "Mother, this is for your own good. The house is falling apart, roof leaks. Wiring's a fire hazard. That place in Akron has a pool. Activities. You'd love it." Dad nodded, all avuncular concern. "And Riley, sweetie, we can help with your rent if you back us up. Family sticks together, right?" I laughed, a bark that echoed off the icicles. "Family? Like how you stuck Grandpa with your debts? Or let Uncle Tommy rot in that grave while you cash the check?" The air went arctic. Mom's eyes narrowed to slits. "What the hell are you on about? Riley? That's ancient history." And none of your business. Graham slid the will across the wicker table. Her chin lifted like a queen. It is now. Frank left it to me.
To us.
And if you push, it goes to her. Dad snatched it, scanning, face purpling like overripe plums. This is bullshit. Dad was losing it, dementia. We had power of attorney. Lies. All of it. But they flowed from him smooth as Lake Erie fog. Mom leaned in, voice honey over venom. Riley? Baby. Think about Graham. She's 82. This place is killing her. We can sell. Split the proceeds fair. $800K easy. Your cut could buy you a real start. Away from that dead-end job. Temptation flickered. Visions of a down payment. Freedom from the espresso grind. But then I saw Graham's knuckles, white on her cane. The house's eaves like weary shoulders. And Grandpa's portrait glaring from the window. No, I said. The word a stone dropped in still water. You built your empire on his back. Now it's payback. Dad exploded. You ungrateful little shit. We raised you, gave you everything. Raised me? They'd outsource my childhood to Graham while they climbed. Mom's turn. Tears on cue. After all we've done.
Done?
Like framing me for shoplifting at 16 to teach me a lesson, or forgetting my birthday because priorities. The argument spiraled, shouts bouncing off the snow-dusted lawn, neighbors peeking from lace curtains. Graham stood, frail but unbowed.
Out. Now.
Or the lawyers eat your lunch. They left in a squeal of tires. But not before Dad hissed in my ear. This ain't over. Riley. Blood's thicker than ink. I watched the taillights fade, heart pounding like a bass drum in a blues club. Justice? It tasted like ash. But as Graham squeezed my hand, whispering, proud of you, firecracker, I felt the first spark. Revenge wasn't a sprint, it was a slow burn. And I had Grandpa's blueprint. That night, alone in my studio apartment above a tattoo parlor, walls thin as regrets, fridge humming like a dirge, I pored over the box. Letters from Grandpa to his lawyer, detailing the forgeries, Dad's shaky signature on the mortgage, Mom's notarized lies. Bank records showing the siphoned funds funneled to offshore accounts, Panama Papers light.
Pre-Epstein.
And the crash, a police report buried in the county archives. Toxicology on Tommy clean as a whistle. But Dad's BAC retroactively clocked at 0.12 if you'd believed Grandpa's hired PI. They'd paid off the cop, $5K.
Cash.
From the very pension they'd stolen. I fired up my laptop. Fingers flying. First call. The lawyer. Elias Cohen. A Shark Tank reject with a comb-over and a Rolodex from the 80s. Miss Harper? Frank was a client, God rest him. This will's ironclad. But your folks? They'll fight dirty. Expect countersuits.
Smears.
You ready for war?
War.
The word hung like smoke. I thought of Graham, dozing in her recliner to Matlock reruns, oblivious to the storm.
Ready?
Hell. I'd been training my whole life, every shift where Mom forgot to Venmo promised rent, every holiday where Dad's toast slurred over my failures. By 2 a.m., I'd drafted emails to a probate attorney in Cleveland, a PI buddy from the coffee shop, ex-cop, owed me for spotting his wife's affair, and an anonymous tip to the plain dealer, local family feud, heirs accused of elder fraud. Dawn broke gray, the city stirring to salt trucks and sirens. I brewed Graham's tea, strong as her will, and drove back. She was up, frying eggs in cast iron, humming Danny Boy. "Sleep?" she asked, plating with a wink.
Like a baby, I lied.
The weight of the night settling like frost. We ate on the porch, watching plows push snow into berms. And for a moment, it was 1995 again, me 9. Grandpa tossing a football, Mom still pretending to care. But the bubble burst at noon. Dad's email. CC to Mom's lawyer. Cease and desist. Defamation. We'll bury you in court. Buried. Like Tommy. Like Grandpa's dreams. I forwarded it to Elias. Then texted my best friend, Jax, tattooed barfly with a heart like a Hell's Angel. Need backup. Family bullshit. His reply, on my way. Whiskey or bullets. Jax rolled up at 3. His Harley growling like thunder. Arms inked with skulls and roses. We walked the property line. Him chain-smoking camels. Me spilling the saga. So, your pops is a snake. And Mommy, dearest the charmer?
Classic.
What's the play? The play. I hadn't thought past the will, but Jax's eyes lit with mischief. Hit M where it hurts, the facade. Leak the docs to their country club crowd. Or better, go public. Podcast.
TikTok.
Whatever. Make M infamous. Infamy. In Shaker Heights, where reputations were currency, that was crucifixion. But as we toured the attic, Grandpa's old tools rusted but ready, I saw it. Not just saving the house, but dismantling their kingdom, brick by mortgaged brick. That evening, over Graham's pot roast, I confessed my poison plan, not literal, but the slow drip of exposure. She chuckled, dark as Chianti.
Frank always said you had his teeth.
Bite hard, girl. By week's end, the first drops fell. The PI dug up Dad's DUI expungement, sealed, but not invisible. Mom's house-flipping empire, built on creative tax write-offs. Whispers of kickbacks from inspectors. Elias filed the probate challenge, citing fraud. And me, I started a blog, Harper House Hauntings, Anonymous.
Raw.
First post, the family that stole together. It went viral in niche corners. Reddit's r/am I the asshole. Local Facebook groups. Comments flooded. Screw the boomers. Protect Graham. But the backlash? Entitled Millennial Snowflake. Split sides already. And we hadn't hit climax. Mom called Sunday night. Voice syrup sweet. Riley, let's talk. Dinner at the club? Just us girls.
Trap.
But I went. Graham's locket, Grandpa's gift, tucked in my bra like armor. The club was old money ossified, chandeliers dripping crystals. Waiters in penguin suits. Mom waited at a corner booth. Pearls gleaming. A Manhattan sweating condensation. You look tired. Honey. This stress. It's not good. I slid in, ordering a neat bourbon, Grandpa's poison. Cut the crap.
Mom.
The will stands. House stays. She sighed. Theatrical. It's not about the house. It's you, wasting your potential on grudges. Dad, and I built a life. Sacrificed. For you. Sacrificed? Like pawning my prom dress for blackjack chips? I leaned in, voice low. Sacrifice Tommy.
Grandpa. Me.
What's the going rate for a soul these days? Her mask slipped, eyes flashing serpent green. You don't know shit. Tommy was a junkie.
Deserved what he got.
And Frank, he was drowning us in his honor. We saved the family.
Saved?
They'd gutted it. The dinner devolved, her pleading, me probing, until she hissed, "Walk away, Riley, or we'll drag your dirty laundry. That affair with your professor? The pills you popped in college." Lies. Half-truths twisted like barbed wire. I left her there, Manhattan untouched, and drove home howling into the wind. The war escalated Monday. Dad sued, elder abuse claims against Graham, alienation against me. The paper ran a puff piece, Shaker heirs battle over matriarch's care. Puff. It was propaganda. Mom's fingerprints all over. But my blog hit 10K views. Shares from AARP activists. Jax and I protested. Peaceful. Signs reading "Honor thy father, unless he's a thief." Neighbors split. Old guard backing my parents, kids these days. Millennials cheering me, smash the patriarchy of property. Graham weakened. Cough rattling like loose change. Doctor said stress, pneumonia lurking. I moved in, sleeping on the sofa, guarding her like a hellhound. Nights, I'd stare at the ceiling, replaying Mom's words. Was she right? Had I become the monster? Wielding Grandpa's ghost as a club? Doubt not. But then Graham's hand in mine. Frail but fierce. Fight, Riley. For him. For us. 2 months in, the siege turned medieval. Dad's lawyers, slick sharks from a firm that repped big oil, filed motions to freeze the estate, claiming Graham incompetent. A court-ordered psych eval loomed, and Mom played the doting daughter, showing up with casseroles laced with passive aggression. Just checking on Mother, she'd coo, then corner me in the kitchen. This vendetta's killing her. Riley. Drop it. And we all win. Win? Like the time they won my silence after Dad's business trip, left bruises on Mom's arms, covered with long sleeves and longer lies. I'd been 12. Hiding in the closet, hearing the slaps echo like Judgment Day. No. This was deeper than slaps. It was excavation, unearthing the rot Grandpa had papered over with love. Elias countered with medical records, Graham sharp as a tack. 92 on her MMSE. But the judge, a silver fox named Hargrove with golf buddies in Dad's club, scheduled a hearing for May, prime selling season.
Natch.
Meanwhile, the house groaned under leaks and liens. I patched the roof myself. Blisters bubbling like my rage. Jax hauling shingles in his truck bed. "You're a regular Norma Ray," he joked. But his eyes said worry. My blog evolved, reclaiming roots, interviews with locals who'd lost homes to flips, elders evicted for progress. Subscribers hit 5K. Sponsors trickled. Indie lawyers. Senior advocacy groups. Money? Pennies. But purpose? Gold. The twist came mid-April. Rain lashing like God's own fury. I was at the probate office, filing affidavits, when my phone lit up unknown number. Riley Harper? This is Detective Ruiz. Cleveland PD. Got a tip on that anonymous blog of yours. Wanna meet? My gut iced.
Tip?
Blackmail? I met her at a diner off Euclid, greasy spoon with Formica counters scarred like my conscience. Ruiz was compact. Latina firecracker with a badge that screamed no bullshit.
Coffee black.
She slid a folder over. Your uncle's crash? Reopened cold case. DNA on the wheel. Matches your dad. And that insurance payout? Fraud flags everywhere. I blinked. Steam rising like disbelief. Why now? She shrugged. Whistleblower. Some PI you hired stirred the nest. But here's the rub. Statutes expired on manslaughter. But fraud? That's federal. You want to press?
Press.
The word was a precipice. Exposed Dad. And the house was safe. Scandal sink sales. But jail? For the man who'd taught me to ride a bike. Even if his hands later signed away my future. I left with copies. Head spinning. Drove to Graham's through puddles deep as doubts. She was napping. Bible open to Proverbs, irony thick as humidity. I woke her gentle. Spilled the file like contraband. Her face crumpled. Then hardened. Knew it. Felt it in my bones that night. Greg comin' home reekin' of whiskey and fear. Tommy gone. And him whisperin'. Accident like a prayer. We sat till twilight. Her stories unspooling. Dad's wild youth. Bootleg parties in the basement. Mom covering. Always the enabler. They thought blood bought silence. But Frank. He roared.
Roared? Grandpa.
The quiet giant. Who'd confronted them in this very kitchen. Fork in hand like a sword. Chased him out with curses, Graham said. Chuckling wet. Said if they touched the house. Hellfire'd follow. Hellfire. I called Jax. Voice cracking. It's biblical now. He roared over. We cracked a bottle of Jameson, Grandpa's brand, and plotted. Not violence. I'm no Tarantino heroine, but precision strikes. Leak the crash docs to the feds anonymously, amp the blog with sources say teases. And the hearing? Turn it into theater. But sleep evaded. Dreams of Tommy's ghost, laughing. Then screeching as tires screamed. Mom struck first. May Eve. She arrived unannounced. Bottle of Chardonnay in hand. Dress hugging like a second skin. Truce, she purred, popping the cork. Graham was out, bridge club. Her one rebellion, and I let her in, wary as a stray. We drank on the porch. Fireflies winking like spies. Riley, you're breaking my heart.
This. War.
It's not us. Her eyes glistened. Real tears? Or Oscar bait? Remember Cancun? That trip I saved for. Just you and me? Yeah. The one funded by flipping Grandma's heirloom brooch. I sipped. Stealing. Cancun was a bribe.
Mom.
For looking away. She recoiled, then rallied. God. You're like him, stubborn.
Blind.
Your father. He's not perfect. The crash?
Panic.
Tommy was high. Grabbed the wheel. We protected the family.
Lies.
Polished to a sheen. But her voice cracked on protected, and I saw it, the fracture. Protected? From what? Truth. She drained her glass. Eyes darting. From ruin.
Like now.
Drop the suit. Riley. I'll deed you the beach house. Walk away clean. The offer hung. Seductive as sin, Florida sun. No more 4 a.m. shifts. But then the rain started, drumming the roof like accusations, and I saw Grandpa's shadow in the downspout.
No.
Because clean's a myth in this family. She stood, wobbling, face twisting from sorrow to spite. You think you're righteous? You're trash, dropout. Bar slut. Clinging to ghosts. We'll crush you. She stormed to her BMW, but slipped on the wet steps, ankle twisting with a snap like finality. I froze, then helped her up. Her sob raw. Why hate us? Hate? It was love. Inverted fierce. unforgiving. She drove off one-handed, and I collapsed against the rail. Bourbon burning regrets. Was I the villain? Pushing a mother to break. A father to cuffs? The blog post that night was raw, the cost of truth, no names. But the ache bled through. Comments erupted. Forgive them. They're family. Versus. Blood doesn't excuse betrayal. Sides splitting wider. My followers fracturing into camps, justice warriors versus reconciliation romantics. Hearing day dawned muggy. Courthouses reeking of stale coffee and despair. Shaker Heights Municipal. All marble and malice. Graham in her Sunday best. Cane thwacking like a gavel. Me in thrift store blazer. Jax in the gallery flashing thumbs up. Dad and Mom entered like royalty, suits tailored. Lawyer in tow. Hargrove banged in, spectacles perched like a hawk. Matter of Harper Estate. Petition to evict. Elias rose. Avuncular thunder. Your Honor. This is fraud. Pure. Exhibit A, 1998 will. Notarized. Unassailable. Dad's shark countered. Coerced. Decedent suffered cognitive decline. Medical testimony forthcoming. Lies layered like lasagna. Then Graham's turn. Oath sworn. Voice steady. Frank built that house for love. They stole his sweat for greed. I stay. Murmurs rippled. Mom dabbed tears. Dad glowered. My testimony gutted me. They took my savings, my security, left me to drown while they swam. This isn't care, it's conquest. Cross-exam? The shark Torin. Miss Harper? Your blog slanderous. Motive for revenge. I met his eyes. Motive? Survival. Court adjourned for recess. Air thick as fog. In the hall, Dad cornered me, breath mints masking scotch. End this, Riley. Or lose everything. Everything I already had. Back in session. The bomb dropped Ruiz. Subpoenaed by Elias. Took the stand. Detective Maria Ruiz. CPD. 1992 fatal crash. Victim Thomas Harper. Gasps as she detailed the DNA. The fraud. Mom blanched ghost white. Dad's jaw clenched like a vice. Hargrove's gavel cracked. Counsel. Approach. Whispers. Then recess. Hours ticking like a fuse. We waited in a coffee shop across the street. Graham sipping broth. Me chain vaping nicotine guilt. Jax texted. Feds circling. Your pop's done.
Done.
The word echoed as we returned. Hargrove's face granite. Petition denied. Estate intact per will. Further proceedings on fraud allegations scheduled. Cheers from our side. Silence from theirs. Mom rushed Graham. Hug or hex. Whispering. This isn't over. Mother. Graham patted her cheek. Sad as autumn. It should be. Child. Victory tasted Pyrrhic. House saved. But fractures eternal. That night. Celebratory takeout turned confessional. Graham admitted her sin. I knew about the crash. Stayed silent for peace. Peace? It was complicity. And her eyes begged absolution. I hugged her, whispering, we all did. But sleep brought nightmares. Dad in orange. Mom unraveling. Me crowned in thorns. The counterpunch landed Friday, leaks. Twisted. A tabloid splash. Granddaughter's revenge. Sabotaging family for inheritance. Photos, me protesting. Graham frail. Sources? Mom's circle. No doubt. My job suffered, manager side-eyeing distractions. Jax fought his own demons. bar fight landing him in lockup overnight. Collateral, he spat over the phone. And Graham's cough worsened. Doc ordering rest. The house felt less fortress. More frail. Mid-June. The feds knocked FBI. Crisp suits. Warrant for Dad's records. I watched from the window as agents swarmed his office downtown. Box trucks hauling files. News helicopters buzzed like vultures. Mom called. Hysterical. They're arresting him. Because of you.
Arrest?
Not yet. But cuffs loomed. Truth hurts. Mom.
Click.
She showed uninvited. Pounding the door at midnight. Rain-soaked. Mascara rivers. Let me in. Riley. Please. Graham asleep. I relented. She collapsed on the sofa. Sobbing. Greg's breaking. Confessing everything, the debts. Tommy. Even. Other things. My pulse thundered. Like what? She wiped her face. Voice splintering. The professor. I paid him to fail you. Keep you close. Dependent. The room spun college expulsion. Not my laziness, but sabotage. Why? She laughed. Bitter.
Fear.
You'd leave. Like Tommy. Like Frank's dreams. Revelation hit like a freight train. Not just greed, but terror. Parents clutching control like a life raft in a sea of loss. I poured her tea, hands shaking. And now, she shrugged.
Defeated.
Fight or fold? Your call. Dawn found her gone. Note. Forgive us? No signature. But the question lingered. The blog post, Shades of Grey, went nuclear. 50K views. Debates raging. She's the victim.
No.
Enablers. Podcast invites flooded. I declined. Focusing on Graham's chemo consult. Cancer. Stage 2. The house's final haunt. Jax bailed me out of my funk, tattooing a phoenix on my wrist. Rise. Killer. But rising meant choices. Press charges. Watch empires crumble. Or mercy. Let rot fester? July 4th, Irony's holiday, brought the lynch mob. Dad's arraignment streamed live. Fraud. Manslaughter upgrade. Bail denied. Flight risk. Mom testified. Crumbling under cross. We did it for family. For family. The phrase mocked as fireworks boomed. Graham and I watching from the porch. Her hand cool in mine. Worth it, she asked. I nodded. Throat tight.
For you.
For him. But worth? The climax brewed. Controversial as a Molotov, revenge splitting not just us, but the nation. TikTok's trending Harper House horror. I stood at the precipice. Grandpa's will a noose or a lifeline. Wondering if justice was just another betrayal. August scorched Cleveland like a grudge. Humidity clinging like unspoken sins. Dad sat in Cuyahoga County Jail. Orange jumpsuit a far cry from boardroom blues. His arraignment footage looping on every news cycle. Rust Belt dynasty crumbles. Fraud.
Death.
And a family's fall. Mom vanished into seclusion. Her realtor license suspended pending investigation. Whispers of her own indictments swirling like fireflies in the dusk. Graham's treatments sapped her, chemo days blurring to bedridden hazes. The house echoing with her coughs and my futile soups. I juggled it all. Blog moderating death threats, bitch. Karma's comin'. Job teetering on warnings. And Elias's endless filings. Justice? It was a hydra cut one head. Two grew. Public adoration laced with hate. Neighbors crossing streets or leaving pies. The real storm hit Labor Day weekend. A barbecue invite from Mom, neutral ground, her sister's late cabin and mentor. For closure. Closure. The word was a trapdoor. But Graham urged, "Go, Riley. End it proper. Frank'd want peace." Peace? After the poison? Still. I packed a cooler, beers for armor, and drove east. Lake Erie glinting like a traitor's smile. The cabin was Adirondack rustic, pine walls, dock creaking under waves. Mom waited alone, gaunt in jeans and a hoodie. No Botox armor. "Thanks for coming," she said, voice threadbare. No hug, just gestures to chairs by the fire pit. More's makings untouched. We talk circles. Dad's plea deal brewing, 10 years. Maybe less with cooperation, her immunity, for testimony. He named names, partners, enablers. It's over. Over? The word hung. And I probed. The professor? She winced, poking embers. Jealousy. You were brilliant. Pulling away.
I
Panicked. Panic. The family curse. Dad's wheel grab. Mom's whispers to Dean's.
and me?
The debts. She nodded. Ash falling like confessions. We intended to pay.
Swear.
But the car washes failed. Then the market. Excuses. Excuses. The mortar of their wall. As dusk bled purple, she cracked the vault wider. Tommy wasn't high. Greg hit a deer, swerved, lost control. Tommy took the blame to shield him. Thought it'd bond them. Then the crash happened for real. Greg driving, Tommy passenger. Irony.
Huh.
Irony, tragedy, laced with farce. Tears tracked her cheeks, real as rain. We covered because.
Loss.
After Tommy, we clung.
To you?
The house, anything.
Clung.
The revelation twisted. Not monsters, but mortals, drowning in their own deep end, pulling us under to stay afloat. I drove home hollow, waves of empathy warring with wrath. Graham listened, eyes distant. They chose wrong. Every time. But forgiveness? That's your chain to break.
Chain.
That night, the blog's final post brewed, not black and white, a manifesto, betrayal's roots in fear. Revenge's blade double-edged. It exploded, 100K views. CNN pickup. Debates fracturing forums. Cut M loose. Versus. Rebuild the bonds. Sides so split. I deleted comments. Overwhelmed. Then the call, October 1st. Elias breathless. Hargrove's ruling. Fraud proven. Estate penalties to you and Graham. But twist, your parents counter with duress claims. Grandpa coerced the will, they say. After their confession. Duress?
Grandpa?
The steel in our spine. Bullied? Bullshit. But it stuck. Trial set for November. Media circus primed. Mom testified pre-trial. Spilling. Frank threatened exposure unless we signed away claims. Lies? Or half-truth. Grandpa's letters hinted at ultimatums. His roar a cornered lion's. The climax crested mid-trial. Courtroom packed, activists, rubberneckers, Jacks in the back row sketching caricatures. Graham too weak to attend. I carried her words like a talisman. Dad took the stand, shackled but suited. Voice gravel. I loved my father. The debts? Desperation.
Tommy?
Accident.
Pure.
Jurors leaned in. Some nodding, the everyman crook. Relatable in Rust Belt recession tales. Mom followed. Poise shattered. We failed Riley. But she fails us now, twisting grief to greed. Greed? The accusation boomeranged. My cross-exam a minefield. You stole my future.
Mom.
Call that love. Hargrove adjourned daily. Tension coiling like a spring.
Outside.
Protests clashed. Free Greg. Signs versus. Justice for Frank. Fists flying. Pepper spray stinging. I slipped out one night. Jack's towing me to a dive bar. Shots lining up like soldiers. You're winning. But at what? At what? Graham's hospital bed loomed. Cancer clawing. My reflection hollowed. Eyes like Grandpa's, haunted. The twist detonated November 15th. Verdict Eve. Anonymous email from inside. Scanned pages from Dad's cell notes. Confessing not just fraud, but the unthinkable. Grandpa's heart attack? Hastened. Pushed him too far. Argument. Pills and a scotch to calm him. Overdose. Pills. Mom's domain. Her anxiety meds legend. I forwarded to Elias. Numb. Murder. Not natural. But proof? Hazy. Circumstantial. Trial day. I dropped it mid-testimony. Ruiz corroborating. Exhumed talk screen pending. But traces match. Chaos erupted. Gavel bangs.
Shouts.
Hargrove clearing the bench. Dad lunged. Cuffed hands straining. Lies. She's the poison. Mom fainted. Paramedics swarming. Jurors dismissed. Mistrial declared. Retrial in 26. Feds piling on homicide. But the real bomb? Graham's deathbed whisper that night. Hospice lights dim. Riley. I knew about the pills. Helped her dose him. For peace.
Peace.
The final betrayal, Graham. My rock. Complicit in patricide. She slipped away at dawn. Hand in mine. Last words. Forgive.
All.
Funeral was small. Rain-lashed graveside. Me eulogizing. She built with love. Broke with fear. Mom attended. Veiled. No words exchanged. Dad? Solitary. Watching via Zoom from lockup. The house. Mine now. Probate fast-tracked. But hollow. Echoes of ghosts. Months blurred. Retrial quashed on technicals. Dad copping to fraud. 8 years. Mom community service. Her empire ashes. I sold the house. Not to flips. But a co-op for elders. Proceeds funding a foundation. Harperroots. Legal aid for family fraud victims. Jax and I. Something brewing. His ink on my skin. My fire in his laugh. But the ending? No tidy bow. Readers debated eternally. Was I avenger or avaricious? Heroes or all heels? Grandpa's will reclaimed justice. Sure, but at the cost of a family. Fractured beyond mending.
Some nights.
Porch sitting in my new Ohio City walk-up. Lake Erie wind whispering. I wonder if I'd walked away. Poison undrunk. Would Graham breathe still? Dad free? Peace real? But then I feel the phoenix burn. And no, revenge isn't triumph. It's the scar that teaches you to live scarred. In America, where dreams die hard and rise harder, that's the only justice we get. Messy. Controversial. Unyielding.